bit cosy. Repeat offender.
Yes.
Edition 110.
Yeah.
Now podcast.
I know. I'm like the media darling.
Basking. There's a few of them.
Yeah.
A few repeat offenders, which we love. Who are we with? Where are we?
I am Sam Gleeson. I'm a bladesmith based in the west of Ireland. We're in a tiny little township called Muhana. We are 10 minutes from the sea. You've obviously seen the sunshine and the surf today.
Beautiful.
So you get to appreciate it.
Thanks for booking that for us today.
It's a goodie. And yeah, you're now in the beginnings of, well, this is my workspace. This is the beginnings of our school. Hopefully, as time progresses and people keep following what we're up to, this is going to turn into a real centre of learning and enjoyment for people.
Yeah, and we need to get on to what that's going to become.
Yeah.
Why bladesmith? Why not knife maker? Why not metalsmith? Why bladesmith? I'm always interested as to how people categorise themselves.
Yeah. I think knife maker in my head is not someone that forges necessarily. It's just somebody like that. It doesn't make you better, worse, different, whatever.
No, it's just different. Yeah.
In my mind, if you aren't forging, then you can't be a bladesmith. And if you are forging, you should be a bladesmith rather than a knife maker because you're a smith. You're working with
smith
fire.
and metal. Yeah.
And personally, I started grinding blades, and it wasn't something that was sort of the spark moment necessarily for me. And I think I very quickly built a very homemade forge out of a barbecue and Neves hairdryer. At the front of the workshop that used to just fill the workshop with coal smoke, and it eventually burnt the hairdryer and didn't really work very well. I got in trouble. I had to buy a new hairdryer, burnt a lot of steel, didn't really know what I was doing, but enjoyed it, and that really ignited what you see here now and sort of the bigger machines and messing around with that.
And how long ago was that? When did this all start?
Probably, we're here 9 years now, so I'd say probably 11 years ago I made my first knife. Spent about 2 or 3 years just dicking around, making lots of mistakes, breaking things, not having the right equipment. The guy that got me into it, Fingal Ferguson, has always had a nice workshop to work in, so it's always in and out of there sort of every few months, on the phone. What am I doing? What's happening here? Tell me more. And then probably maybe 2019 started to like get my head around it a bit more and just push a little bit. And then Fingal and I were working at a food festival, and Nathan Outlaw was at the food festival. He's had quite a few knives off Fingal. We were chatting away. He was talking about a new knife that he'd like, and Fingal turns around and he's like, Nathan, meet Sam, Sam, meet Nathan. Sam's going to make you your next knife. So I was like, oh, okay.
I have a customer.
I have a customer. Hadn't had any customers before, and he really liked, they were just a couple of little Oyster Shocks and a little pocket knife. He really liked them, and people kind of got wind of that, and it just set the ball in motion, really.
Oyster Shock could be quite a hard knife to make, first off, because it's probably got the highest percentage chance of breaking.
Yeah, they're a tricky. It's trying to. One is trying to educate people about getting the knife in the oyster enough before you twist it. But two, like, I'm not sat next to every single person that's trying the shuck, so it needs to be well thought out. It needs to be a bit springy. It needs to be nice and hard. So you've got a difficult heat treat. And how thin do you go? Because if you want to keep it thick and not break it, it's then like trying to jam a 2x4 into the oyster, and that's not so easy as well. So they're good fun. I don't even do them that often, but I've been messing. I've got 2 actually upstairs for me and Neve that I've been playing around with some different ideas. So we'll see how they go.
Amazing.
And was that your first knife? First customer knife?
First customer knife, yeah.
So how long ago would that have been?
I think that was 2019. So prior to that, I was making furniture and chefing. So
You've done a lot of things.
I've done many things. I've been school teacher, built my own outdoor centre, worked overseas a lot. My degree is environmental chemistry. Jeez. I did a volunteer apprenticeship as a sculptural furniture maker.
How has that all fed into this?
Passion, carnage.
Carnage, it's a word.
I have bipolar. I battled bipolar for a long time, probably for about 15 years of my life, and ended up overdosing, and realised out of the back of that overdose on the rehab side of it was when I got diagnosed. I was 30 by the time I diagnosed, and had spent years just self-medicating.
30 years old, self-medicating.
Yeah.
That's a long, hard stint, man.
So it was like just not comfortable in my brain, and the easiest thing to do was push it out of the way with other stuff. But I've always had a very busy mind. I've always been very creative. I've always been very inquisitive. So it's this like battle between the science brain and the art brain, and they're both bubbling away with all these ideas, which is fantastic when it's good. When it's bad,
it's real bad.
It's pretty dark. Yeah. And then since then, it helped. I'm a big, don't believe you should use things like that as an excuse to not do things in your life. It doesn't become, I can't do that because. It gave me an understanding of things that I hadn't been able to understand before, and educate myself about it, change my lifestyle, change my diet, loads and loads of things, broke away from friendships that were sort of difficult, bad relationship choices, went to live in West Africa for a while, sorted my shit out, came back a different person, and touch wood, it's definitely is still there. There definitely are darker moments, but it doesn't hit the bottoms that it did. And I think it fuels my, when the frantic brain is going, I'm able to use it pretty well. And like what we're talking, I have 12 million things going on at the minute, plus 4
so
kids.
Tabs open,
it's like if I am a computer, I am on the verge of frying, somehow managed to skeeter into the next bit. And I think it's a belief in all this, that what is I know where I have been in the darkest hole. I don't envisage that I will be in that hole again. I think I know too much now, so if I do fall, it won't be as far. So use that knowledge to just grow and educate. And if we can provide, whether it's help, you've seen where we live, it's pretty rural.
Yeah.
If you are growing up here and you have a belief that you can be an artist or a craftsperson or a chef, I would like to be the person, or Neve would like to be the person that can give someone a gentle hands into that scenario and go, look, this is what's possible. You don't have to be a plumber, Sparky,
or you don't need to hire maths or higher English.
Exactly. There are other routes, and I've done the university thing, I've done the arty thing. Neve didn't go to school at all and went to catering school and found her niche later in life. We've each walked a very different path and have arrived somewhere that hopefully we can give those skills to people and inspirations.
You've had experience and you want to help someone
Definitely.
Else, it's amazing.
And for my kids as well, I grew up with my dad's workshop on the side of the house. I didn't get to see him much because he was always so busy, but I always knew where he was. So he'd sit and have breakfast with you in the morning while getting ready for school. He'd be out to the workshop. He'd come home from school, making him a cup of tea. He'd still be in the workshop. He'd come in for dinner. He'd go back out. He might come in for a bedtime story when I was small. He'd be working Saturdays, probably a bit of Sunday, but that was his life passion as well. And it opened up an understanding of sort of making things and working with your hands. And he wasn't an educated man, but his mind was able to arrive.
Well, he wasn't traditionally educated.
No.
He wasn't academically educated.
No.
He was obviously educated. That he'd educated himself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's been a massive inspiration for me.
And what has he done?
He made bits for vintage car engines.
Oh, okay.
So there were lots of lathes and milling machines, and I've never been someone into cars. I spent years growing up going to Silverstone looking at historic racing cars being dragged around. I'm like, great, it's another car. But what I did like was the fact that some old boy who owned whatever car it was would turn up with like a box of bits at, say, in January, and by June the box of bits would be a reassembled engine that my dad had to build some bits, and by Christmas the following year the old boy had turned back up in the car driving it around and take my dad out for a drive. I was like, this is pretty amazing, because like I just saw this pile of rusty junk, and then my dad had a few lumps of odd-shaped metal that have been machined to go into this, and now look how happy he is. So that was pretty cool. And then if I can do, I don't know what my kids will end up doing. I was very lucky with non-educated parents, or not traditionally educated parents, I should say, is I was given a free rein to do, like, just try your best. There was no pressure to do anything, and by doing that, helped me go to school, helped me go to university, helped me do the art. Like, there was always an open door for experience and support and understanding and stuff. And if we can do that for our kids, great, job done. That's if they want to climb our youngest boy climbs everything. I'm like, what's he going to end up doing? It's like become a mountaineer or what? I have no idea, but it's quite exciting watching them and watching their excitement when they come in here. They kind of know, like, if the hammers are on or the forge is lit, they know that little line over there, they can't cross that, but they can, if they've got their ear defenders on, they can happily sit and watch that. Sometimes I set up one of the other anvils on there and I give them a little hammer, and they have little wooden templates of knives that they sit and they bash away, or they'll come upstairs and sit with me, and they have a little toolkit themselves, and they'll have scraps of wood and nails and build animals and dinosaurs and stuff.
I often wonder how much kids, we don't have kids, but I often wonder how much kids learn just by osmosis, I suppose would be the word, like just by seeing it, and just, like, even though you might not have been in the workshop with your dad, you've seen there's a potential of someone turning up with bits and then a year later a car driving around. You know, like, that creates a lot of wonder, I think it is.
Definitely.
And I think that wonder, like, what does that then turn into?
Yeah.
What can that be?
I think for when I was at school, I was really lucky I had an exceptional science teacher, an exceptional geography teacher, and an exceptional art and graphics teacher, and they could see my inspirations for each of those across. And I was like, given what I had at home, my excitement, like, could see my dad doing these little drawings for building stuff. So the arts and graphics department, they knew that I had machines at home, so I was allowed to use certain stuff in school that the other kids weren't. Like, and the first day in school into the classroom, we still had like a woodwork classroom and a metalwork classroom, and it's like, okay, you can use this, and I'm like, I already know how to use, like, I want to use that because I actually have one at home. And they were like, really? And like through the course of the first couple of weeks, they were like, okay, off you go. So it was great to have that. And then the same as sort of the science and the geography teacher, they could see the passion there. So there was something that kind of probably opened up their passion as well. Like, I think hopefully teachers are passionate people about their subjects. They're not all bitter and twisted by the education system. So yeah, they all gave me these little pass keys that sort of kept me going up levels.
And kept you interested.
Totally. So I think if it is osmosis, it's great. It needs possibly a gentle push here and there from some other bits and bobs. I don't know if it's all completely possible just by outside inspirations, but I think there's definitely a great opening for what we can do for kids.
At that stage, though, you personally, did you think that you'd be doing stuff with your hands? Because you then took a bit of an academic route. Yeah,
I don't know. My love the environmental chemistry, my passion at school was like the actual experiment bit. I loved drawing, like, I don't know if you did the same thing, but every experiment you had to do in chemistry, you had to draw the apparatus set up and stuff. I spent ages drawing all the little details of that. And then I loved the building the apparatus for it, and then trying to like making distilling caffeine out of tea, and the aim was to have like 3.6 grams of caffeine. So I made it my damnedest that I would do everything that I would get my 3.6 grams, and like some kids were getting 1.5 grams and some other kids were getting 2.9, and I would probably be the only kid getting 3.6 grams. And it just zoned in. I was like, this is cool. Like, got to play with all these things.
Yeah.
And I think I didn't find university easy. It was tough. But
Intellectually tough or sitting in one place tough?
both.
Both. Right.
I think a lot of it was sitting in one place with a big fucking book.
Yeah.
Today we are going to learn 14 pages of this book. And I'm like, oh my God, this is not what I want to do.
Yeah.
But equally, every Monday we were out in the field collecting samples. Every Wednesday we were in the lab analysing the samples. And they're the bits that kept me alive through uni and kept me going and kept me hungry. The main lecturer, on the day that I went to the open day, he opened up his talk with welcome, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, oh, sometimes I don't even see my third year students other than when I'm in the sea surfing. And I was like, that's the man I want to learn from. This is cool. And had a really good relationship with him and a couple of other teachers. And then happened on the very first day, met someone in my halls that had grown up very near to me, back in Cambridge, who was also into surfing. So it was like, there's not many surfers there probably is now, but back in the day.
Yeah, it's kind of a bit cool now, isn't it? But I can't imagine.
I knew nobody that surfed. We had a couple of mates that we all went on holiday to Cornwall and we had bodyboards and stuff like that. But like outside of there was like, who are these people? I met this dude and he's like, oh, my friends are at the art college down the road and they like surfing as well. I was like, what? 4 people from Cambridge in the same place. So we met them and we organised to go for a surf the next morning, got on really well with them. And then just spent all of my free time in art college with them. So they were filmmakers, photographers, sculptors. And I was just using the sculpture studio for messing around. I was going to film lectures. I was helping out on photo shoots and stuff like that. So over the 3 years, I kind of did an art foundation as well.
Yeah.
And then
Just
when
didn't get the bit of paper.
Yeah. And then when I finished, I had a show with a friend of mine. So I did a load of sculptures. My friend did a load of photos. And so I had my actual degree and then almost like a post-degree show as well.
Nice.
I was like, this is pretty cool. Yeah. And then lucked out with this guy who was a sculptural furniture maker who lived nearby, who happened to know a friend of a friend of a friend. And I knew that he was looking for someone to help him in the workshop. So I went off travelling for a few months. When I came back, I moved back down to Devon and worked with him for a year. And just kind of in a similar scenario as this, like dirty, great big cow shed, one stove in the middle, no installation, lots of woodworking machinery everywhere, freezing cold in the winter.
But getting on with it.
Getting on with it, learning. He was like very high-end furniture and sculpture. So like clients, he'd lived in London, still had a very big client base in London. So got to deliver some really amazing stuff to some very sort of fancy places, see how that was made, got to help out with some shows at the Oxo Tower and stuff like that and sort of make pieces for the show. So got to see that kind of stuff. And I guess like I've made, like with my oldest now, like I've always made, my dad made me a lathe when I was 7 as a Christmas present. And
They made you a lathe?
Yeah, I have a lawnmower engine. So it's like Christmas morning, it was in the kitchen under a giant piece of Christmas wrapping paper with a bit of wood ready to go. And I pulled it out, it was plugged in, and there's a set of chisels from another family member. So it's just like wood chips all over the house.
That's so cute, right?
And that's all, no matter what I've done, there's always been the making something. I had the outdoor park, making skate ramps.
Very much encouraged you to do that.
Yeah. So mountain bike trails, I love mountain biking, but I equally love building features to ride. Like how cool is it to suddenly like have this crazy harebrained idea of some wonky ramp into a big dirt jump or something. And it's like, feels good to ride it, but how good does it feel to have built it and then ride it? And stuff like that, it's always been there. It's always had an outlet, but it's just this outlet seems to manifest in different ways.
There's something quite cool about having worked with someone with a high-end customer base, really high-end clients and high-end galleries, that was literally in a cow shed with one stove
and
workshop, because I think so many people get disillusioned by the beautiful Instagram reels and like the nice white workshops and the beautiful machinery and everything's just so.
Yeah.
And I need that to make this beautiful piece of furniture.
Yeah.
Whereas in actual fact, like, look at the knives you're making out of what is literally a cow shed with the right equipment in it.
Yeah.
It's about the right equipment, not the most beautiful equipment, right?
Definitely. And even like, this is obviously a long time before iPhones, Instagram, all of that. So you were going from the extremes of, like, I lived in a caravan outside the cowshed.
Nice.
With a little tiny wood burning stove that you would light it of an evening, it would get boiling hot and you'd be sat in your pants designing stuff, and then by 3 a.m. there was like ice on the roof. You'd be just like, light the stove. And you go from that extreme to, like, I think the craziest client was the head of the Kuwaiti bank, and he lived in this crazy Park Lane apartment, and everything, it was a double height apartment, hand painted wallpaper, everything was handmade.
Wow.
Insane level of detailed craft. And we made these 2 little bedside tables, and the day that we delivered them, we went into the house, delivered them, he wasn't there, he was at work, and then we had to go to work, and while he was being written the check for the he's like, how much do you reckon a desk could cost? I fancy a new desk for my office, and then gave him a deposit for the desk, because I was just like, this is mental.
Yeah.
And then back in the bockety old transit van through London.
And how old were you at this point?
22, 23, probably.
So you got a really early insight, not only at like your dad back then making stuff, but also like people can make a good living out of this.
Totally, yeah. And the same for some of my dad's clients were like the crazy old dude who built this car from nothing.
Yeah.
Equally, people were like, they had 25 historic racing cars in a heated garage with like heated blankets over, like serious bucks. And they'd be the same. They'd come over the house. I'd make them, I have no idea who they were. They'd have a cup of tea. They'd be chatting engines to my dad. He'd get an invite when they were racing and stuff like that. So it's kind of nice just to, and now, I guess now with my knives, like some of my customers are like wealthy chefs and stuff like that, or wealthy private clients that I've made furniture for. But it's like, I think generally people are, they're into what is being made. They love the story. They love the process. It crosses so many borders. Yeah. It breaks down any social airs and graces and
in a big way.
And I like that a lot. Yeah. I don't believe in sort of bad manners, and I don't want people being gobshites. I want to work with sound people. Yeah. And if I get orders from gobshites, I'm pretty, so far I'm quite able to say no. I don't have to make it. I want to make stuff for people that really value things, not because of some status symbol. It's like, I'd rather they just...
It's your values.
Yeah, they love the product. They love what the story is. They want to come here and get dirty, see what's going on. It's like, great, well done, you get it.
Is that quite a guiding principle for you?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people can fall into, well, work's work.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the right answer is. I don't think there is a right answer, because everyone has to keep a roof over their head, right? But you can definitely fall into, oh, well, work's work, so I just done it for them, rather than maybe you put that project off but chase the bigger project, or chase the nicer project, or chase the one you want to do. Yeah. You know, it's quite a hard balance to...
I've been guilty of saying yes too much in the past.
Right.
To my detriment, for sure. And I think the older I've got and just become a bit more confident in my abilities or what I'm making, that I have been able to turn around and go, do you know what? Thanks, but no thanks. Don't need to do this.
Is there a time stamp on when you got more confident, or has it always been a progressive thing?
Probably just a progression. I think, like, pre-overdose, there were so many things going on that were great in my life that I was pushing and growing. Had the outdoor centre, I'd been a primary school teacher, loads of travels to go surfing, loads of interesting people in my life. But like this carnage in the background, like just self-destruct and trying to survive self-destruct of like coming out of that. I think it changed it just changed something in me enough that I was like, hang on a minute, I don't have to break myself all the time, and if I'm not breaking myself, then you possibly need to also respect that you're not breaking me. And a little by little, I kind of, as I crawled out of that hole, I was like, oh, actually, I'm not bad, I'm okay. And whatever I was getting stuck into, I was like proud of the work that I'd done, and even just proud of the journey. Like, I think it's it feels like a world away from where my life is now. Yeah, right. I feel like such a different person. If time travel ever gets invented, I would definitely I don't know if I'd change it all, because who knows what I would become now, but I wouldn't mind going back to like 15-year-old me and going, just it's going to be all right. Like, whatever is going in your head right now, turn the volume down one notch. It's going to be all right. And just seeing, because that's a big thing. I think there was a lot of upset, personally caused upset, that probably didn't need to happen for a long time. Yeah. So it'd be nice to.
Do you think you would have overcome that or had that standpoint had you not found working with your hands, craft, whatever that was, whether it was building skate parks, mountain bike trails, knives, like you're doing now, and all the other stuff that we're going to talk about in a minute? Like, if it wasn't for that, do you think you would have ever found the sort of solace, I suppose, you could?
I don't know. It, like, craft is making has been medicine always. It's like, it's an outlet for however it's manifested. It's all that frenetic energy in my head able to come out in a creative way and make something, be that food, dirt park, skate ramp, knife, art piece, boom, boom, boom. Like, it just allows, it's like this, do you know Mr. Messy? Yeah. He's like the pink squiggles, and then he meets I can't remember what they're called, neat and tidy, I think they might be called, and they end up sticking them in the bath and combing them out. Like, craft allowed that combing down of things and to try and untangle some of the mayhem. And I like that. It's still, like, I'm not going to deny that my life is chaos, but it's kind of organised chaos. And
it feels like it's directional chaos.
Yeah, like, and I like some of the chaos as well, because it sparks, like yesterday I was in this meeting about the showcase event, and some of the people know my work now, so they're like, oh, what are you doing now? What's going on? And you can see that this little spark of chaos ignites other people's interests in things, and I like these sparky moments of you never know who you're going to meet, like, make these conversations happen. Being your spark of interest might, like for us, like we would have never met if it hadn't have been you guys having a spark of interest and belief in doing the magazine and me making things. Like,
well, that's all down to Kate.
Yeah,
you know, just someone who seen a problem, experienced the problem herself, and was like, this industry space, whatever you want to call it, is literally chaos. We need to put something out there into the world. And I mean, even last 9 years I've worked in high-end film sets. Yeah. That is literally 32 to 40 weeks of chaos to make a thing happen.
Yeah.
Like, that's all it is.
Nobody has any idea when they're watching the finished film.
They're like, oh, this must be so organised.
And everyone's like, oh my God.
Yeah, you know, like, it is just chaos, but through chaos can come some really beautiful stuff. Yeah. Some really, really beautiful stuff.
Definitely.
So when it came to actually learning the knife making side of it, or the smithing side of it, and not just the grinding side of it, what sort of education was that? I mean, it feels like you had a really good background for that, because actually you had the science, and anyone who knows, you know, proper bladesmithing, there is a lot of science with heat treating, forging, even just the metallurgy of it, and the craft side of it, but you also had the chef side of it. Yeah. But from what you're saying, it doesn't sound like you had a bladesmithing education. You just had all these other educations that kind of converged and propped that up.
I went and found people whose work I really liked, people who I was inspired by, people who worked in a way that I wanted to work. And I contacted them all and were like, hey, I'm nobody, but I'm really interested in this. Can I please come and pay to have some time in your workshop? Or can I come and meet you and come and mess around in the forge or whatever? So I have a really good friend now, Joel Black, who's based in Hereford, who is probably my biggest guiding light, I'd say, in my smithing. Alex Pole, who you've interviewed as well. Alex and I actually know each other through a totally different route of a shared friend who I used to cook for. They went to school together years and years ago.
Right.
And then Alex and I actually lived down the road from each other for quite a few years, but never knew each other. And he and the friend had been in the gem setting business for years.
Right.
Alex's background is jewellery.
Yeah.
And then randomly we ended up meeting through me saying, hello, Alex, can I come and work for a couple of days and visit you? And then realised that we knew this person and sort of cemented a friendship through that.
That's awesome.
The Blenheim Forge lads have been amazing.
We had a couple of their knives.
Yeah.
That was our first ever present, our like housewarming present when we bought our first house, was 2 Blenheim Forge knives.
Cool. That's a good present.
Didn't know you at the time, I did.
No, there we go. But again, it's these kind, like, I love the lad's story as well. Like, Joel has a really interesting story that he was a chef for 10 years. He kind of got disillusioned with the world of chefing, went to Hereford College of Blacksmithing with the sole purpose of trying to understand how he could make the perfect chef's knife. And at the time, there wasn't very many knife makers there or in the country, so Hereford school was very much traditional blacksmithing and was like, what do you mean you want to be making knives? You're meant to be...
Jack Swaygood said the exact same when he was there. They were like, what do you mean you want to do sculpture? This is a gates course.
Exactly.
You know?
We'll teach you to shoe a horse or you do this.
Yeah, shoeing horse and gates, that's what they do.
And now it's all sorts. Joel's probably 10 or 12 years out of there, I guess. He's taught thousands of people. He is making phenomenal knives. He's doing some super crazy high-end teaching now in stone polishing and smithing, using some insane ores and stuff like that. Alex's work is like, I think because he had that background in the jewellery and sort of the high production, he's gone down another route with the smithing. So he has a high production shop.
Yep.
He designs the product and prototypes the product, and then he has a bunch of lads who he's mentoring that he teaches how to make the bits, and they come up with the cookware range. They've genius, like, and it's a great. There's some other lads who have come out of that and have now set up their own process. Steve and Joe, who have Thornwood Forge, who are doing axes, knives, all sorts of stuff. And then the Blenheim lads were all art students, and out of a weekend jolly, let's build a forge and see if we can make a knife. Enjoyed it, and off they went and bang, whatever they are now. I don't know, 10, 15 years down the line.
Well, we got our knives five years ago at least. Yeah. And they definitely weren't new at that stage.
No, it's a good long way. And like this summer, we had a wonderful gathering of smiths for a guy from America, a guy from Sweden, Austria, 2 of the Blenheim lads came over, a bunch of Irish lads, all came together to make some knives, to mess around with some steel, and it's all going into an auction for what's it called, Doctors Without Borders kind of thing.
Cool.
Oh, yeah.
So, and it's like, I know the boys in Blenheim quite well now. Some of these guys I don't know very well, but we chat on Instagram and stuff, and all of a sudden we're in a big workshop. You all love smashing metal. You all love eating nice food and stuff. Like, it's a great weekend. Had 3 days together.
Sounds
Everybody
amazing.
made some really cool
And
stuff.
you done that at Blenheim's Forge?
No. So Fingal, who got me into the knife making, is a friend of his called Mark Keeling, who is like the Willy Wonka of the blacksmiths. Well, Mark's workshop is about 5 times the size of my workshop, and each there's like a brass section, a silver section, an iron section, a wood, like the level of, I'd say Mark owns 98% of the forging equipment in Ireland. It's bonkers. There is stuff like just piles and piles of crazy machines, and it's only him. He knows every machine intricately, totally self-taught.
The knowledge.
Yeah, it's bonkers. I hope somebody is learning from him at some point, because when he dies, there's going to be a massive void of what he has accumulated.
Yeah.
It's quite sad that when you think about it, right?
Yeah.
It's
talk about it quite
it's
often.
a huge. I was speaking to someone yesterday evening about this. Like one of the hardest parts about we're currently digitising all our previous editions, so they kind of live on in that world forever. And I'm going through people from edition 1, like yourself, and edition 2 and 3, and I'm like, oh, they're not there.
No way.
They're not there.
Wow.
They're not there. And it's not many. There's
Yeah.
not many of them. You've really done a great job, Kate, of picking the right people. That sounds horrible, but it's
It's
true.
like,
Yeah.
Are they going to die in the next 10 years?
But it's not even just dead, just not doing the craft anymore, just not sticking it out.
Okay.
Like people that have just called it quits.
Yeah.
Which,
And, it's not for us to say whether they should have or shouldn't have, because everyone's got their own reasons.
Yeah.
But I understand why people do.
Yeah.
I also see so many people, like we sit down with people like yourself today, that have seen out the bad times
Yeah.
and are still here and better for it.
Yeah.
It's just the bad times can be really, really shit.
Yeah.
Like really, really shit.
Yeah.
So, yes. Yeah, hard part. So formal training, none really, but then started talking. How was that received when you started reaching out to people?
In what's interesting, I think, with the knife making and bladesmithing world, I have yet to meet anybody who has put up a barrier. Whereas in the chefing world, there's so many cliques and guarded secrets and angry egos. In knife making, bladesmithing doesn't seem. I chat to a lot of people over the world. But one of the interesting things with the school, we're trying to do this shared collaborative project. So I approached maybe 30 people around the world whose work I really liked, told them about the school. I was like, can we make a collaborative piece that I can auction for the school? And I think out of 30 people, I've had 2 people that said, no, I'm sorry, I don't have time to do it. Everybody else has said
Just
yes.
made it work.
And I've got from people at sort of my level of work to in the stars kind of superstar level who have what do you need? When do you want it? Great idea.
Wow.
Wonderful. And that has been really humbling to see. And then when you get gatherings of people and you get to meet them and you're like, oh, am I going to be a little bit starstruck? What's everybody going to be like? Everybody's super sound.
Yeah.
They just want it's a passion, it's shared learning. I don't know why the ego, I'm not sure why it exists with the food, with the chefing. And I've worked I worked in some crazy kitchens when I was having pans thrown at you and shit that's not going to inspire anybody. It doesn't help. Definitely doesn't help your stress levels as being the aggro chef. So chill the fuck out anyway. Yeah. And now you've got to deal with me not being able to work as well because I've just got a pan to the chest whilst I'm trying to work. I've possibly cut my finger. And it's nah, this is not the way to behave. And I think Neve and I have been lucky. We probably have worked with some really good people in the food world as well. So it's not the be-all and end-all. And we've got some super sound mates that we have a lot of laughs with cooking. But I definitely think my experience so far with the knives and the blades is that door it's almost like it's instantly open. There isn't a case of having to knock on the door. It's let's just go and ask. And people are like, of course, come and see. Maybe it's my attitude. Maybe I just picked the right people. I don't know. But I've met some incredible people and have been astounded by how open and friendly people are.
I mean, the crafts world, most people are so good. They're so welcoming and we've never met a bad one.
Yeah, the only people, as I say, we've never met a bad one, but the only people we've ever come across that seem to be a bit standoffish aren't that good because they're usually hiding something.
Yeah.
People that are really shit hot are really, really happy to share.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of been a guiding principle for a lot of what we've done. If they're really open and yeah, you should come in a workshop, you should see this, and in a workshop, and so I do this by doing this, this, and this. It's oh, right, you really know what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Because those people are never threatened, right?
Yeah.
Those people are it took me 5-6 years to perfect this. I can show you how
You're
to do
not
it.
going to go and do it next week.
Yeah, exactly. You're not just going to knock it out next week.
I mean, go ahead and try.
Yeah.
I think I'd like Paul Hamler, you talk about someone having 98% of the smithing stuff in Ireland there. This guy's got just machines that you just can't find in America anymore, in his workshop, and half of them he's bought multiple scrappers and built good ones out of.
Yeah.
And yeah, just look at some of the stuff he does and how open he is with all the knowledge, and he's like, oh, you should try this and you should do this, and like even some of the products he designed to make sharpening engravers better, he just phoned the guys that make it and been like, by the way, if you do this and make this product, you'll probably do really well because every engraver in the world wants it.
Amazing.
And all of a sudden they're making stacks out of it because I just wanted it and I didn't want to make the product. So if you can just send me a free one, that'd be great.
Yeah.
You know, people are pretty open. When they're really good, they're really open.
Yeah.
What could you give advice to younger bladesmiths? And, you know, I'm thinking of the Scottish Bladesmith guys, all the young guys there that we were talking to about how to reach out to other people, about maybe fears for reaching out to other people.
Because that's quite
or just makers in general.
To ask people, because not a lot of people want to do that.
I think like I push myself into these scenarios. I'm actually quite a shy person, and I have made myself over the years go out, talk to people. Like from when I was at school, I went to a normal state-run school, but it was the sixth form years were in this like old 15th century mansion house that had been gifted to the school, and all these grounds. There's like a 1960s red brick, like Grange Hill type thing, set in these amazing grounds and woodlands with a lake and this ridiculous house. And it's like, it's quite an inspiring place to be. You think of all these people that have been through this system. And they still have house captains and stuff like that. And when it came for my year of house captains, I was like, I'm actually going to do, like, one I really wanted, I was very passionate about Surfers Against Sewage. I don't know if you know what they are. This is early days of them, and I was like, I'm going to go and become the house captain, and I'm going to make Surfers Against Sewage the charity that we work for the whole year for. Cause
so you had a purpose to be, you didn't just want to be house captain, you had a purpose to be.
And I was like, it's going to be horrendous because I'm going to have to stand in front of like hallfuls of people and talk, and I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And I busted my ass to do it, and going into that, I knew I wanted to go travelling when I finished school. I'd had a photograph of this beach in Australia in my wallet from when I was about 14 years old, of this wave. I was like, I'm going to go and surf that wave when I finish school. Cool. And I just pushed myself and pushed. And part of that, doing the house captain thing, was like, okay, well, if I'm going to go to Australia on my own at 18, like, need to be able to like chat to people and get outdoors. And I remember I got off the plane in Sydney, jumped on a bus, my rucksack and my board bag. It was like 6 a.m, and the bus driver's like, okay, here's the beach. No one around. Dumped the stuff on the beach. I was like, I'm here now. What do I do? Like, okay. I just like got changed into my wetsuit, left my bag on the beach and went for a surf. And it's pushing like that belief in things that you're passionate about. Put yourself in a scenario that is difficult, is a little bit uncomfortable, because you never know what it's going to lead to. Like, if you're constantly fretting about what if, you will never know. It's like you have to try. No matter how uncomfortable it makes you feel, even if you get shut down, keep trying. It's like somewhere will open up and ignite a spark. And it's like when I was living in Ghana, my friends owned like a eco backpacker resort kind of thing. I went over to help them build some more places, and we did a big beach bar and stuff. And the beach bar was built out of a traditional dugout fishing boat, like 40-foot long giant hardwood tree, and it had come to the end of its life as a fishing boat. So we managed to, like, the last voyage was driving up to the beach, and then like 100 people, ropes and logs, rolling it onto the beach. And we repainted it all and built this big bamboo bar around it, and it was called the Why Not Beach Bar. And it's like, they have the same belief. Like, why would you go to Ghana to build a backpackers? Why not? Like, what else are you gonna do? And it's like, if you believe in it, why not try it? Like, I think I dream very intensely. I dream in daytime as well about aspirations of what I want to do.
Can't stop thinking.
Don't stop being a dreamer. It's one of the hardest things that I think modern society has squashed out of, like, just break people by not giving them dreams. Everyone that you know as a kid has a dream of what they want to do in their life, where they want to go. Want to be an astronaut, want to be a fireman, want to go live on a treasure island. Like, all of that is such gold. And then
From the age of about 8 to 16, I wanted to own a scrapyard.
There you go.
I think I'd have been a rad scrapyard.
Yeah.
I'd have
And
been
it's
so
like,
good.
that's a wonderful thing. And you've got to work with all sorts of bits and bobs probably and build, like, keep that belief alive. And like, it breaks my heart when, as I've got older and older and watching friends and people I know around of like knowing what their dream was, and you just see it dissipating and fading away. And it's just like I am not being life has to happen.
Yes.
We have to earn money to survive. We've got to eat.
We are in the system now, so we need to make it work for us.
So unless you are diving out of the system entirely, which is a whole different ballgame, but
Yeah, that's a different podcast.
why this system only has to occupy a certain amount. There are things within that system you can still do to keep yourself inspired, to keep building. It's like, please, please, please keep a little spark going. Like, to the day that I die, I hope my brain is like firing off all these things. Probably on my dying deathbed, I'll be like, hang on a minute, I've got a great idea.
If we just
It was
do
like,
this.
what was it? No, could bring it back to life.
cut
Just
the
find out.
credits.
Done.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think like we're lucky. We obviously have this belief and we keep going.
Yep.
So I think if maybe that's the story of success of what is for craftspeople, for makers, for chefs. Like, you don't necessarily have to be a restaurant owner, but being a chef, like, your creativity is coming out every day. For being an artist, your creativity is coming out. Just find something to keep that spark going.
Yeah.
Amazing.
With that in mind, what have you all got going on to keep that spark going? Let's talk about your knives first.
Okay, can I have a drink of water?
Yeah, of course you can.
Go. It's all good.
So we'll talk about what we know you for first, the knives. And then there's the other knives.
Yeah.
And then there's the knife school,
Yeah.
which has the other corridors in the school, shall we say.
It's all good.
So knives first. You're
Yeah.
a knife maker first and foremost, or at least you were first and foremost. I don't know if you still are a knife maker first and foremost.
Yeah. At the minute, I feel like I'm. This is probably the closest I've been to an office job in my life in the last, since we found out we were pregnant with the twins. I knew I wasn't going to have as much making time for the first bit of their lives. So it's kind of pushed me in some directions to address what is the future for me, for them, and how can we provide a life for all of us where we live and make that sustainable. So as my day-to-day bladesmithing is sort of very narrow windows of working at the minute, so I've really tried to cherry pick what I make and how I make, and I wanted to try and open up a different doorway from the craft and knock on the art world and say, hey, just because this is a functional object, it doesn't stop it being beautiful. Can I please put it in an exhibition? And I've been banging my head against that door for a while, and that is a door with a lot of cliques in. But in this last year, I've managed to open that door, and I have been able to get some work in some really good exhibitions. I've won some nice awards. I've been invited into a few really interesting things. So that's been an amazing sort of ray of light as to what was possible, what I've always believed is possible. Like, I think it's true across, or it's not just the knives, it's like high craft is artwork. We've split this divide of art and craft to, like, this is a shark's head in a tank, and this is fancy and it deserves a space in the gallery because X, Y, and Z, whereas you make really beautiful, amazing things, but no, sorry, they can't come into the gallery because
that can chop bread.
Exactly. And I wanted to try and bring that back a little bit more. So it has meant lots of times juggling one or two babies, thinking lots of like, okay, who do I need to talk to? Where do I need to go? Looking at art awards, galleries, just contacting people. Here's my work. Here's my CV. Who I like, let me have a chat to you. Do you want to come out to the studio? Come and have a look. And as each door has slowly opened, it's actually been amazing. Like the Golden Fleece Award at the start of this, I can't even think where I am in my diary now, but when I went to that, it was amazing to see the board of people that are the selection committee are some real big hitters in the arts world.
Right.
And when I went into that awards room, they all came up and they were like, "We love your work. We're so glad you applied for it this year. This is amazing to see. Thank you so much." And I'm like, I meant to be thanking you for the award, but it was so refreshing, and it's in a very, very high profile gallery, and just nice to see a different slant. And then as the next application, it was like suddenly that's on your CV. So it's like that opens the door a little bit more, and somebody's like, "Oh yes, I actually saw your work at the show. Please come and have this way." So it's like having a Jemmy bar to like...
Yeah. Jemmy bar's getting longer and longer.
Yeah, the lift doors are like, "You're not coming in." And it's like, okay. And it feels... I got Arts Council funding for me personally this year for the first time. And that felt like a huge thing. But I don't know if you have it in England. In Ireland, you can apply to be tax exempt for your artwork. No, so it's like an artist's loophole, or so anything that your creative work you don't have to pay tax on it, and it's to help artists. So you could be a musician. So as of now, having got the Arts Council funding and these exhibitions this year, I am going to apply for that and see.
Because you're now in the art space as well.
Exactly. Now, whether I get it or not, I don't know, but it could be a real help for the school.
Yeah.
And then trying to be an education centre as well. We're doing all this. We have no personal finances to lob into this. We are having to do it with grants funding and a lot of paperwork and time and stuff like that. But
it's a lot of time.
Yeah, it's the belief that what is possible of it. I am 47 now. The likelihood is I am not going to have a pension. I am not going to be retired. I am probably, hopefully, going to be doing this to the day that I die in quite a few years, rather than early death from the stress. So let's go for it and let's see. Yeah. Day to day has been really refining what my process, my passion, and the product is as a finished piece. What does it look like? What's the story behind it? I think if you think the knife is probably our oldest, or something sharp and pokey is our oldest tool.
Yeah.
And it's what defines humans from all the other primates. We all began, and as we stopped sticking sticks down a hole to collect ants, and maybe that stick got sharpened on a stone, or we chipped a bit of flint and we were able to cut something up. That is the beginnings of
civilization.
Yeah.
I don't think it's out of this world to say that the knife, you could also put the axe in there.
Yeah.
But some form of sharps implement
that
was the start
cutting edge.
That was the start of civilization.
Yeah.
Between that and fire, because obviously fire to make, but that then threw us through Dark Ages,
everything,
all these other ages.
Yeah.
Because we had tools,
and we still have it. It hasn't really come that far in the grand scheme of it. Like all of these, like blasting off with ideas of going to live on Mars, like Mr. Astronaut and Mrs. Astronaut is still going to need a knife to chop a few things and stuff like that. They still need fire to get the rocket up into space. Like we're not too far from sticking our fingers down ant holes still, but it's this tool is now a way of like, we can make it beautiful, we can make it out of interesting things, we can go through interesting journeys of thought process of what this is. We can look at the interconnection of people around how do you make a knife in India? How do you, what's it used for? Is making a certain curry in a particular way, does it require a certain blade, or could it literally be a sharp edge? Go to Japan and every single minuscule detail of cooking a thing has a a shaped blade, like make noodles, you need a noodle knife. Skinning an eel, you need an eel. I love that detail. I love the idea of it. You go into the Western world and it's like all the old French style blades. And it's like, it spans everywhere. It connects us all. We all eat food. We all cook food. We all have to prepare food. So it is this huge piece of human society that brings us all together, that if you start looking at it in that aspect, rather than just an object, it's a voice and an implement to tell stories and to bring people together and to celebrate, like it's a birthday party. We're going to cook food. We need a knife. We're making a cake. We're cutting this. And it's like, it does so many jobs and interconnects so many things. That really excites me. So traveling down that journey and art wank, for a want of a better word, I think the more you learn to talk about that journey and those interconnections is possibly what changes craft to art. It can be the same implement and it can go in the drawer and be pulled out to cut your dinner, or it can go and sit in a cabinet in a really highbrow gallery somewhere and have this spiel underneath it. It's still the same thing. It's like, my reasons why I made it are still the same. When you're chopping away with it, I love the journey. Like we were talking about the knives made from the piece of steel from America. Like that journey to me is worth millions. Yeah. It's astronomical. But for somebody, it's just like, oh, it looks pretty. It's great. I'm going to be happily chopping my dinner. Yeah. The art curator is like, oh my God, this is incredible. Yeah. Let's get it in the gallery. Let's do this. So it's learning where this mesh is and how you navigate that mesh. So that's personal work.
Yep. Just before we go on to the next bit, the other work that you've got going on. With that in mind and what you've just said in mind, does that make the style of a piece more important, or the story of a piece more important to differentiating your work from others?
100% of my main focus is function. Yeah. Doesn't matter the story, doesn't matter the style. It has to be a working tool. Yeah. And I think that comes from my experience in the kitchen, making food in my own, like anyone can make a sharp, pointy object. Yep. Anyone can make a beautiful, sharp, pointy object. Not everybody can make a very high precision chef's knife. The balance, the weight, the way it cuts through things, all of that is really, really important. The balance, loads of stuff. It can be the most wonderful looking thing in the world, but if it's a wedge of like when you go to chop an onion and it pings the onion into half because it can't slice through, or however, trying to fillet a fish with your ginormous sword that you learned off of YouTube, and it makes you look very manly and buff. But your little fish is only this big and you have to use the end from this far away. It's got to be functional.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because an axe is a very, very accentuated version of that, whether it's a splitting maul or but to me, the layman who cooks but not at a level, I wouldn't think about that. I wouldn't think about edge geometry as much. Yeah. I wonder what I've done to the edge geometry of my Blenheim knife. I've sharpened them.
But what you do, like when you are cooking at home, you pick it up and you're happily chopping away. Yeah. And you don't have to think about it because it is a precision kitchen tool. Yeah. Whereas if you had a clunky piece of shite that like really heavy, or it's giving you blisters, or it's like it's not cutting well, very quickly you're going to be like, hang on a minute, like something's wrong with my knife. What's wrong with my knife? And like, there are drawfuls and drawfuls of really bad knives in the world. There's drawfuls of really blunt knives as well, which will feed into our other project in a minute. But like, yes, it's nice that it looks beautiful. Yes, I am really motivated by story and materials as well. I've always been like, I've collected junk, or other people's junk, scrapyard. Like my favourite place as a kid growing up was this yard called Thomas Smith's that my dad would take us to, and it was a builder's yard and scrapyard in one. So there were like piles of sand and new timber in one corner, but then just piles of God knows what everywhere. And my dad would be there buying whatever he needed, and me and my brother would just be climbing up. What's this? Can we get this? Wonderful. And it always, whenever I go to anywhere like that, I am back as being 7-year-old Sam, scampering through certain smells of that place, like cut timber. There's a sawmill there, so certain cut timber smells. It instantly takes me back there, and it's. We're going to have a visit from the dog. This is Bert. Bert's going to come in. Oh. Hello, Bert. It's a good time to make an appearance.
Yeah. So the other project, taken away from the high-end chef knife, so that was conscious. You positioned yourself in that because you had the relevant experience to position yourself there and not just be another knife maker as such, to be a bladesmith, specialist bladesmith. And you're taking that specialist bladesmith and chefing experience to fill what is a bit of a gap in the market between crud and something nice. Hello, your dad's going to tell us a story, but you can stay there and get scratched.
He loves a good scratch.
So, the other knives.
Yes.
Tell me more.
So, this comes from story, I guess, and the importance of my life of using other people's junk. Always scouring the beach for picking up plastic, wood, metal, stones. From a little kid to when I was at uni, my poor dad, when I finished uni, my dad had to hire a transit van to come down.
No way.
Collecting all of this stuff that I'd accumulated off of, I was making furniture and sculptures and all sorts of stuff. And like all of my friends constantly laughing, but like they'd always be the first ones on the phone if they'd been down for a surf somewhere or been for a walk. Hey, I've seen X, Y, and Z down the beach. Get yourself down the beach. So it's always been this wonderful. I don't know. I don't like the word hoarding because I definitely think I'm doing something useful with it rather than I'm not like.
I think every order said that.
yeah, every single one. They're wrong. I don't attach myself to it in that I want to make stuff out of it. I would like to give it to people. I was always making presents for people out of all of this stuff with all sorts of different contraptions and artwork and stuff. So the story of material has been very important in my normal day-to-day life. This story is about trying to address our understanding of materials, of resources, of finite resources, and our responsibility as global citizens and for future generations of what we should be doing to build something in place before the world becomes this giant melting pot of doom. That's
plastic.
Yeah.
Melting pot of plastic.
Exactly, which is probably what it is. And like plastic is everywhere. We cannot escape it now. And the idea that recycling, it's this language. It changes all the time. It's something is sustainable, something is recyclable. We have this thing now with we've got recycling points in shopping centres. I don't know if you have it in Scotland.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like you go back and you put we've got deposit systems back. Like the narrative and the understanding of what all these things are constantly shifts. Like when I did my degree, that was like mid-90s. We're now 30 years later, and we've gone from like environmental, like we still have people that don't believe there is environmental problems, which is another thing. But if we accept the last 30 years that we have an understanding that there are some issues with our world, and we have a responsibility to try and rectify that, or we just fuck it up entirely and we're going to be like the dinosaurs, and in another 10,000 years, maybe another species is there going, whoa, look at all these skeletons, and they were the ones that ruined the planet, but now we've got run of it and it's fantastic, great. But while we're here and while we have a chance to address this, maybe this is my chance to like make good of some of the bad decisions I've done. This will be my legacy project.
Right, okay.
This is not like fame and fortune. This is about trying to just address something that I think is an important issue, and maybe I have a chance to do something positive in that. So
See you.
this has started by collecting and seeing plastic everywhere when I go surfing.
Yeah.
It is, and over the years, it has got worse and worse and worse and worse.
It's very apparent for surfers to be of this mindset.
Yeah.
I think they see it so much in
Totally.
the ocean. It must just be just the amount you're seeing it. It's an exposure thing, isn't it, with surfers and people that live by the sea?
Yeah.
It has to be. You've
And
just seen it so much.
I think as I've surfed a lot of places around the world, this is not a problem in Ireland or in England and Scotland. Like, this is a worldwide problem. I've been to some phenomenal, like tropical, wonderful destinations.
I've still seen it.
And it's still there. It's piles of it. It washes in every day. It's little tiny bits. It's plastic bottles. It's fishing crate, all sorts and everything. And like for some of the time, I'm interested on like the shape or the colour. It's a really beautiful little piece that I'm like, oh, I can stick that in a picture frame, and that's going to look really cool. But as the years have gone by and I've seen more and more accumulate, I was like, well, maybe if we can actually make something with it. So we started messing around by reprocessing it, and now there's whole companies have arrived in the world who are doing this on a bigger scale.
Outdoor furniture's massive for it.
Huge.
Outdoor furniture and fence posts.
Yeah, I'm actually meeting a fence post company next week.
Nice.
Because I want to see
how they do it,
where they're going, where they're getting the plastic from, what are they doing. All of these ideas are fantastic. Like, let's stop making new shit all the time. Like, we don't need to be making brand new fence posts. We certainly don't need to be growing trees for making fence posts.
No.
And like you see around here, all the forestry we've got around here, it's nice having green trees, but it's Sitka pine grown for paper pulp or for like crap building material. Like
and plastic reconstituted fence posts are better than wood ones.
It's going to last a lifetime. It's way better. So if we can address some of these issues and put that into a scenario that I'm familiar with, then let's see what we can do. So this product is an idea to get as close to as a completely sustainable product as possible, using as much post-consumer, post-industrial waste as possible. It will be a lifetime product. It could even be an heirloom product. Like if I do this right, I don't see that just because it's not sat in a gallery, like why not pass your kids on this plastic hand? Like plastic's going to sit in a landfill, can sit in your kitchen drawer, and it can be this wonderful knife. Like I've got bits and bobs from my dad's that I remember as a kid. We have an egg flip in the kitchen that I use like every few days to flip the kids' eggs for breakfast. I grew up with that for my earliest childhood memories, and it's a bit of stainless steel with a wooden handle, and it's just lasted. So
it didn't have to be a £100,000 car for it to be heirloom, right?
It's God knows it's probably a five, probably wasn't even a fiver, and it's lasted 50 odd years or whatever. So let's make something beautiful, something positive, something accessible, and that's a big thing. I think even on my normal day-to-day work, I really want to keep it accessible. I could put ridiculous price tags on things. I don't believe in that. I want people to use them as day-to-day tools. If you start sticking thousands and tens of thousands on the price of things, one, it limits who can buy it, and two, it puts pressure. It's like, should I use it? Maybe it needs to go on the wall. Maybe we'll just leave it in the drawer and we'll just get it out at Christmas.
And you're talking tools.
Yeah.
I think you were about to say it.
You want to use it. People
Totally.
want to use it.
Yeah.
You want people to use it.
Definitely. That's why I made it. Yeah. I'm like, come on.
You see it in the saddle world, like American art saddles that are all silver and all this and all that. Like no farmhand's using that.
No.
You want a saddle that the farmhand's beating on.
Yeah.
Every day.
It's like, come on.
But you can't make that £100,000 saddle.
No.
Because farmhand ain't got £100,000.
No.
You know, you need to, especially when it comes to tools. And a lot of the making, we kind of niche down on the making of stuff that people are going to use. Like you can't make it, even thinking about picked guitars. What's the point in him making a £30,000 guitar for no one to ever play it?
Yeah.
There are things to be used.
Where does it go?
Yeah.
It just sits on a wall.
It's an ornament, right?
It's like, it's kind of a shit. Surfboards. Like, I have a few surfboards. I have a few broken surfboards over the years. I had a really beautiful balsa surfboard that I bought years ago in Ecuador and had made for me by this crazy old American dude. And when I moved to Ghana, I was packing to go. I was like, do I take it? Like, it's a really beautiful thing. I was like, what is it? Like, it's a surfboard. It's meant to be surfed. It's not a picture to go on the wall. So I took it, and in the first 6 weeks of living there, I'd snapped it in half, and it's now 2 pieces of beautiful wood that may well
but now
be.
It can be an ornament. It's got a story, right?
It had a journey.
Yeah.
And it like, they have to be used. So this now, we are going to do marine plastics-based handles and other post-consumer and post-industrial waste. Finding all sorts of things. I met a lady yesterday on this course who works with e-waste gold. And we're like, great, we're really interested in this.
Like all the prongs on a USB pen, all the prongs on RAM.
And brings it in, and then she makes jewellery from it.
Nice.
And like, my friend that I've been doing the knife project with, we've been chatting about this, like, where do we find e-waste gold? And all of a sudden, this person pops up in my life.
It's
and
meant to be.
Boom. But little tiny features that will make this above the €20 knife that you find in the supermarket or the department store. Like, it is, I want it to be something beautiful that people think. I want it to be a conversation piece, because that conversation is what starts people going, oh, that was all picked up off the beach. Maybe I should pick up some stuff off the beach. Maybe we should reprocess this. Or that was X, Y, and Z. Why is that in the ecosystem in the first place and not repurposed into something else? Like, there's junk everywhere. Let's reduce that level of junk and start turning it into usable things and put it into a different scenario with our environments.
But what you're talking about doing is making a beautiful product out of it.
Yeah.
Not this sort of haberdashery upcycling movement, recycling movement. You're talking about, actually, that's a very valid, good material to do this.
Yeah.
This still has to be a very good product.
Totally.
But this can be used, not we need to design a product around this.
Yeah.
It's a very different thing to what a lot of people are doing.
It's that function first. Again, everything has to be function driven. It's got to be a tool.
Yep.
It must work, and it must. I want chefs to use it. I want home cooks to use it. I want parents to buy it for their kids going to university for the first time, leaving home. Or like, I want schools to buy it. Like, why are we not teaching cooking in schools? And if we aren't teaching cooking in schools, let's build scenarios where kids can. I have a friend in Dublin who has this wonderful business called Another Fine Mess, and she does teenage cookery classes.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
To edge, like, they're extracurricular. She has 12 kids at a time. She's a phenomenal chef, brings them all in, and they do all sorts of mad stuff. It's great, like, but why is that not part of the school curriculum? And if it's not, let's give them all a really nice knife that
Might encourage them to be like this.
Totally.
Look at what I'm using to
Exactly.
make food.
So they're inspired by making the food, and I think that's possibly also comes from the seasonal produce, really important. Local produce, really important. This is just another step on from that. Like, this plastic is the seasonal local thing. It's just that it's everywhere. And it's all seasons.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. That is the seasonal local produce. It just happens to be every season and all of the
Exactly.
time.
So it's like, let's use it. It's there. It's not going away. It needs to be used. Like, it's making the farmhouse country soup of the summer. It's going to be tomatoes because we have loads of tomatoes. It's winter veg because it's root vegetable. Like, it's plastic because
there's loads of it.
Fucking everywhere. Let's do something about it quick.
Yeah.
And hopefully it will go into cookware shops, department stores. I don't know, lists and lists of places of people that will start thinking that this is a useful product, and it will sit in a price range that will be available to people. It's going to sit and stop and make people think about buying it. Yes. Firstly, it's not going to be dirt cheap. You will think about buying it. It's an investment piece, but it's an investment piece that will last you time. We can resharpen it. We can teach people to resharpen it.
Yes.
And
that's the service you're going to offer alongside the product as a resharpener.
Yeah. And it will be, it's not about colour schemes that are going to go in and out of fashion. It's not about seasonal indifferent, like the IKEA model of like, we have this style and then this year it is green and yellow and we're going to be doing, I don't give a shit. But like, it's nice that it's colours.
Yep.
But like, why have we've drifted the arts and crafts movement of like, buy something once, buy it well, make it last in your life. And now we're like, buy shite, buy it 10,000 times, throw it in the fucking bin, or fill up your house with more shite. Like, people have storage space that they rent to put their shite in that they don't even use. That's not even quality shite. It's shite. Yeah. That you're paying money for to not use is like, my mind is blown by this concept. Like, I just have a workshop full of shite. That
but at least it's yours, so you can pay rent with it.
But I hope, like, all of this, the part of the building of the school and the development, like, by the time the school is done, I'd say 95% of this stuff will be within the
for a project
building.
that's ready to happen.
And that, again, that's going to feel really good. To some of these bits of wood I've been carrying around for a very long time with dream of making something out of them, and it's going to go into a certain shaped hole or create a certain shaped thing, and I'm going to be, I remember when I got that bit of wood or that bucket of rusty nails that arrived from somewhere, and it's just like, great, that's just put up all the tin hoardings around the side of here, boom, done. So yeah, I'm a big believer in this, whatever these buzzwords are of sustainable, circular, bleh, it's just how I live. Materials are there, let's use them. If they're reusable, let's reuse them. Let's stop this necessity of creating new that doesn't last, because it's just insane.
So sustainability aside, you're doing 2 knives? You're going to do 3 knives,
do 3.
You're going to do a set.
Yeah,
And
it's separate pieces, but the idea, like a bread knife, a paring knife, and a chef's knife.
Yeah.
And maybe 1 or 2 others. We'll see how we go. But as an essence, that's kind of all you really need.
That's the start, yeah.
You've got a nice sized chopping knife to use on the chopping board. The paring knife is either a in your hand small working knife or it's a steak knife. Yep. And the bread knife, because we are now in an age where good bread is accessible again. Luckily, we're not all on
it's pre-sliced.
Sliced pan.
Pre-sliced
the greatest thing since sliced pan. There's a lot more great things than sliced pan. And yeah, I think, again, like it's that story again. If you have a decent bread knife, it encourages you to buy bread that needs slicing.
Yep.
And then maybe it encourages you to actually have a go at making bread that needs slicing. And then you start understanding another process and another important thing that, okay, well, maybe you're not buying processed white flour, but you're buying a local grain or a whole grain or and like all these things are interlinked, like our diet, our well-being, our environment.
Oh man, we cut out bread, about 14, 16 weeks ago when we went to Australia. And it's really the only change we've made as such. Yeah. It's like, get rid of bread. But then obviously there's subsequent changes with that where you're like, oh, well, actually, maybe that's not so good for me because that is basically bread. Like, getting rid of that stuff. And it's not that we've not replaced it with good bread yet, just we don't really want for it, but getting rid of bread in your diet is one of the biggest changes you can make. Yeah. And I say bread, I mean the fortified, off-the-shelf bread. I don't mean good bread. I mean totally fortified crap, really.
I think it's the same industrial system that's feeding this buy a million things that are shite that you don't need. The food industry is like a monster that has been governed by huge agri-politics across the board. Like even the way our understanding of diet, that is this pyramid of food, was created by an agricultural monster, not by the reality of what it actually is. So it's like, oh, you actually need to be buying X, Y, and Z, and all of those are available from us, and we will do this, and you want our products.
Look at how many companies Nestle owns.
Exactly. It's like, I don't even want to get started. Neve and I have crazy down the rabbit hole conversations about this. Like, I am very lucky to live with an incredibly talented chef who works in Neve is like the queen of ready, steady cook. I think it's her greatest ability. You give her access to a farm and Neve will come away and create you the most incredible meal, and just a whirlwind of like, okay, I want a bit of this, I'm good to that.
Right, okay.
And it's a real joy to watch, because in that sort of ego-driven world of many things within the food thing, I find it really like Neve doesn't have an ego. She has no interest in being a named celebrity chef or anything. Whenever we cook together and do events, she hides in the kitchen, but she bangs out top grade food, and then I'm the one that goes out front and will tell the story of what the ingredients are and why we chose to do it and stuff like that. I want people to understand what's like, you can see how much they enjoy it, but they're going to enjoy it even more when they realize how incredible the journey of that plate is. And it's a nice thing to do. So yeah, we'll leave the food thing alone, because we need a different magazine avenue for that. That can be offshoot.
So we're going to do the 3 knives again, the basics. You've got your main knives, your art piece knives, for want of a better word, high-end functional tools to be used in professional kitchens or by high-end cooks.
Yeah.
School, education, something you've been very passionate for a long time, and it sounds like we're just on the cusp of it all being about to happen.
Yeah.
What's the ethos there? Or what's the theory there? What's happening with it all?
Okay, ethos is to provide an open, inclusive space to inspire learning. I think modern education for a very long time has not inspired learning. Education has been about putting ticks on a tick sheet. It's been about parents being able to talk in dinner parties about how well their child is doing at so-and-so school, and isn't my school fantastic? Or it's about teaching a kid to pass an exam for the sake of funding, because 86% of kids pass this grade, therefore the government gives, like, that is not education. It's I was a primary school teacher for a few years. I was passionate about working with kids. I was passionate about watching that spark of joy when you see an understanding of something suddenly ignite, like a big picture of the world. And modern education is just squashing that out of people.
I can't think of a more soul-destroying job.
Yeah. Oh man,
because the people that are teachers really want to see that spark of joy.
Yeah.
And it's very clear from the very, and I caveat all of what I'm saying with I know nothing about it, but all these teachers all clearly want what's best for the kids, and the education system is a system that needs to tick boxes.
Yeah.
And you need to adhere to that system.
You're just swamped by paperwork and stuff. Like, why are we doing all, like, if you just learn a kid how to pass a test that doesn't, like, they don't know why they've learnt this thing, they can't put it into action outside of the test, it's probably forgotten about by the time there's another test coming in, because you've wedged another piece of something in. Like, we're losing this worldwide view. And I think going back to my parents, my school experience, I was so lucky to have people that could see this spark in me and inspired this spark even further, and were bold in. I think, like, there's so many things in the world that you get smaller and smaller details. Everybody's so in, like, my thing is the most important thing, and we have to, like, if we all look on a big picture, you all start realizing how interconnected everything is. Having an understanding of this big picture allows growth, it allows community. Education and learning, by inspiring this, opens people up to so many things. It just, like, it enriches your life. It makes you it honestly does make you a better person. I know it sounds ridiculous, but, like, probably make a lot of gobshites by poor education. Whereas if we open people up to an understanding of a greater picture, you start realizing your place is this microscopic speck in this giant stratosphere, and you have to make that work. And the only way you're going to make it work is by interconnecting with people and place and environment. So my little speck is a chance to try and create a space for people to grow and learn and understand and be inspired. That's the ethos in 25,000 words.
I've kind of like boiled it down to.
Done.
So that's the ethos, but how are you going to do it?
Bring in lots of people. This is not This is not the Sam Gleeson School of Knife Making. This is an arts, crafts, and cookery school. I will teach a small percentage of it. I want to create a space where I can bring people I'm inspired by to come and teach. I want to learn here as well. So like, I think this was one of the greatest things. When I went to the States, I went to Centre of Metal Arts. The guy that runs that, Pat Quinn, my meeting Pat was really what cemented that I'd been thinking about this for a long time. Talking to Pat, becoming friends with Pat, watching Pat's belief in what he is doing was just like, I have to make this work. And Pat has grown.
I would love an intro to him, by the way, if you've got his email. I'd love an intro, because there's a few people we know that have been there and everyone speaks so highly of it.
I'm trying to get him over here.
Right.
He loves surfing. He's landlocked at the minute. He's not so into flying. He's a bit like BA.
Right.
So we might need to get him over. But I will definitely hook you up. On so many levels, there's so many things that are amazing about Pat. Like, he's handmade every tool that is on the shelves there for the students to work with. He's super passionate about making tools. He's super passionate about the industrial heritage. He has upped his life from quite a nice position of what he believed into a place he doesn't necessarily feel comfortable socially, because of the industrial heritage significance of what that building is and what it meant to what he's passionate about. And he's making it work. He's finding money from philanthropists, from governments and then he goes away and he's like, okay, what am I interested in? And he's like, they have a bicycle making course now, because he loves bikes. So he contacted someone that makes handmade bike frames and was like, do you want to come and teach a course? And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to. And he's built himself a bike. Genius. There's like all of these things. So one of the things,
scratching all of his own itches.
Exactly.
And really, that's what we all want to do.
Yeah. And like, to have that on my doorstep of what I want to feed. Like, we've got, I've been chatting with Grace Horn about doing a scissor making class. We've got the Thornwood lads.
That's her in Sheffield, isn't it?
Yeah. So hopefully that's going to happen. We've got a wooden surfboard maker who I'm really intrigued by. We've got the Thornwood lads coming to axe making classes. Got a couple of basket weaving options.
I'd love to do a bit of basket weaving. So,
like, how nice does it look to be like, everyone needs a good basket in their life. It'd be great. And
it's a usable thing at the end of it.
Exactly. So it's all of these things they're not whimsical, flitty bits of just like, oh, we're going to go and do this. It is a real skill that you can leave with something you have made by your own hands through somebody else's education and their passion. Like, let's meet passionate people and ignite that passion in
get Zoe
other
in
people.
to do some stone carving.
Zoe in to do stone carving, Joby in to do sign painting, or David Bond in to do sign painting.
Sign painting is amazing as well. There's just so many.
David to do the reverse glass
once
stuff.
you start thinking about it, it can be anything, and it's like,
it can be anything.
I would like this will probably end up being my little work bay within the school. I'd like to. That's one thing I did also learn from Pat, is like, make sure you keep your work separate from the students' work. Have your own set of tools, and like, you're not always going to be teaching. You want to work, so you want to make sure when you are working, you know where all your stuff is. And there might be another class on, so you don't want to be like students coming and nicking your tools, or you needing tools that are in the student area. So this hopefully will be my little bay. And then we'll have big teaching area. We're going to have a big sort of dust extraction, clean/dirty room in a big glass box with new windows and stuff there. So that keeps that all nice and clean. Dirty bay outside for welding, grinding, nice woodwork studio, art studios for local people to rent and teach other classes or have as their own space. And then the cookery school side of it will be in the buildings outside. I am open to anyone that wants to come and teach here. As this gets built, get in touch, please. I'm mad keen to meet people and get to know people, and like.
Well, we can certainly put a lot of people this way. A lot of people, yeah.
Like you've seen, like it's a beautiful part of the world.
Yeah.
Shannon Airport's really close by. You can access Ireland.
The beach up the road's amazing.
Yeah. So
what's Ireland like as a place to live and work?
Friendly. Wet.
Well, so Scotland.
Yeah, if you don't mind the weather, I think it's an amazing place to live. Out of all the places I've lived in the world, it's probably one of, if not the most welcoming. Nice. And that comes from personal, like what surfing is obviously a big, important part of my life.
Yep.
The number of places that I have been, travelled, stayed, lived, where you are very much the outsider, and there's lots of fucking aggro dicks who are probably not local as well. We're talking about the craft people that make grumpy life moments.
Yeah.
Intermediate surfers are probably the grumpiest people in the world, right, who have a massive chip on their shoulder regardless of where they live, and like really good quality surfers get the stoke and the excitement of the world. Beginners, like if ever I'm having a shitty day, try and go down the beach and just listen to learner surfers in the sea hooting and cheer, and I'm like,
yes,
they're having fun. Yeah. That's why we do it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And then you go out and there's a bunch of grumpy intermediate surfers sat there all. It doesn't happen so much in Ireland. There's a couple of people around, but not really as much. But like going back to England, a lot of people are surfing in England now. You could go and sit out in the water with 100 people and nobody talk to you. Like,
it's weird.
You might go and sit on the.
Because you're clearly very alike people, because you're doing the same thing. You're doing the same super niche thing.
Like if you're sat on the underground in London and nobody's talking to you, all you have in common there potentially is that you just need transport. Yeah. You don't necessarily have to strike up a conversation, though it would be nice.
Yeah.
You might be reading the same book. You might have been to the same gallery, or like that's something else. But like when you're all sat in the water, all doing the same hobby. Yeah. For enjoyment.
In the
sure,
freezing
you want to meet people and say hi.
Cheer people on. If they've had a good wave, give them a hoot. Like, stop being such a miserable git.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. And Ireland, like, the first time I ever went surfing in Ireland, I got invited for a pint straight. Some random dude. Where are you from? What are you doing? It's before I lived here full time. He's just like, oh, we're going down the pub afterwards if you want to come for a pint. Great. Thank you very much. Lovely. And it's people that I still know now, like 15 years later. It's gorgeous.
That's amazing.
So I think it's the stereotype of Ireland is sort of that happy-go-lucky, chatty. It exists for a reason. Like people are open. They are friendly. They want to talk. They want to say hello. And maybe it comes from a hard environment, Catholic oppression, all sorts of things weighing down on these shoulders. Suddenly are bubbly, happy people that want to welcome people in, and it's cool. It's nice.
And how about the craft space? Like to be a maker in Ireland, how's that?
What I love, I think Ireland as a whole, if you are a sound, good person, it gets spoken about and people know you. So they know your work quite quick. It's a small population. If you get a piece in the newspaper about you because you made it into an exhibition or your work is shown, so whatever, people will know who you are. So people start talking and you get introductions and it's really nice. If you are a miserable git, it also gets talked about. So if you behave badly and stuff like that, that gets talked about and people know. So the craft world it's really nice actually to see. It's been great over the years. Like when I was doing furniture more, suddenly all these little doorways open, like materials suddenly and get phone call. I'm so and so. I live in Cavan and this tree has come down in my garden. Do you want to come and get some slabs of the tree? Yes, please. Thank you very much. You might make him a little something out of it. Or like Layman, my friend, the spoon, we got this amazing walnut tree from Cork that was the last standing walnut tree of an old market garden that had sat on the outskirts of the city, and it had come down. She'd unfortunately had it chopped into logs already, so we were kind of limited but they were good sized logs, so we got some bits. Just some random woman, and she'd seen us in the paper and somehow managed to get our phone number. It was like, you lads would probably like this walnut. Like, there ain't very many walnut trees, like the things like this big. It was wonderful. So that's kind of cool.
It's a really nice outlook though, isn't it, for someone just to be like, oh, those lads would probably like that. Yeah. Because most people, I'm maybe just railing on the UK as usual, but most people would be like, oh, this would be great for a furniture maker. I don't know any. Can't be bothered finding out any.
Yeah. Or it gets chopped up for firewood.
That's it. Firewood's easier. I know where there's a local firewood processing guy, so it'll go to him. Yeah. Where someone's gone out their way to find you, to find your number. I'm pretty sure the paper never printed your number on it.
No.
Like, the bottom of the paper never said, and if you've got any wood,
please give them a shout.
Like, someone's actually put in a little bit of extra effort just to make someone's day who they think they might use it that little bit better.
I think
it's pretty cool.
Because it's such a small population, it's like we always joke here, it's not 7 degrees of separation in Ireland, it's 2 or maybe 3. And over the years, the longer I've been here, it's like you either know the person outright when you meet them, you know one of their family members, or you possibly know a friend of a friend. And the level of connection all the time that I have had across the island is bonkers. It's like the craziest. And even when traveling, like bump into an Irish person, where are you from? Do you know this person? No, but I know that person who knows that person. And you're like, this is crazy. It's That's like good. A secret society.
Yeah.
It's like, what's going on?
Ireland's actually just one big secret society. We've cracked the code.
Yeah. It's the Masons.
Yeah, that's it.
Like,
it's all the Masons. That's cool though.
It's wonderful.
And for you that moved here, I mean, not a lifetime ago, but not recently, that must have been a really nice start.
Yeah, definitely. I think I was very lucky when I moved here. The girl that I was going out with at the time, her cousin and the cousin's friends were doing like festival food, pop-up dinners, fancy cocktail bar pop-ups for Jameson and stuff like that. So every time I was coming over for a visit, I would do some work with them to help pay for my visit. Really got on well with that crew of people. It's just as the economic slump had hit, so everyone was like a bit of wheeling and dealing to try and sort of survive. So all of these projects were like, they weren't normal projects. They were kind of like the hipster movement, for want of a better word. Everyone always jokes I'm like the original hipster. I'm way too old to be a hipster now, but like we were messing around with a lot of stuff and it worked, and we were lucky. We were probably very naive about a lot of stuff. We were very cheap because we were nobody. So like some of these brands were like great, cheap, creative people. We don't have lots of money to spend, but they've got ideas. Let's get them in. And that opened up some doorways for us that it's still now are fantastic opportunities that we've had with all sorts of big brands. That's great. It's really nice.
Hopefully you're not as cheap anymore.
Yeah. Got a bit better at charging.
Charging good money.
Like, finally.
Yeah. It's always the hardest part, though, isn't it?
Why do you do it? All of it.
I believe in it as an important thing for myself. If I didn't, imagine all this.
Yeah.
There's a picture, it turns up every now and again on Instagram of like this rainbow explosion out of somebody's head. And I think the tagline is, "What's that?" And it's like, that's just my mind.
Yeah.
It's like, that's me. It's like,
you have to do it. There's no other way, really, is there?
I would not survive in a 9 to 5. Like, that was one of the things I learned. Teaching is the only time I've ever done like a real 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
And when I finished, I was like, okay, I've done my time. I tried, but that's not my position in life. What I did enjoy, and I knew what I liked out of it, was working with kids and was trying to educate kids, and that's what changed. The outdoor centre was a a weekend project of messing around with a bunch of mates with a few jumps and a skate ramp to like, oh, maybe we could turn this into a business. And then all of a sudden, all the kids that I taught at school were coming to use the outdoor centre, and I got to teach them the things that I wanted to teach them, or like it's in a beautiful rural part of Britain like this, and we could talk about like environmental issues or beach pollution or like
not GCSEs.
Exactly. So like all of this, it's just a way of keeping my brain ticking over without imploding. I think it's important for like, I've got to be able to pass this on, and we've got to be able to grow this. Like doing the technology age has brought some incredible things to the world, but it has taken away so much as well. And without sounding like the grumpy old man, I want people to learn with their hands. I want people to have skills, and like we don't all have to sit at computers. Like there are 1,000,001 ways, and like the world isn't about like there's so many people across the world that have all sorts of skills that are disappearing, be they day-to-day very simple skills or very highbrow super duper craft or whatever skills. But just like get up, get out there, go outdoors, try and make things, try and do stuff, draw a picture. It's like I battle my kids a lot with the TV. I didn't have a TV in my life for probably 20 years. And when COVID came, we bought a TV. And there's part of me that wishes I had never done it again. I had a little tiny black and white TV when I was a kid, but you twiddled a dial for trying to get a picture on it. And now, like, we try and limit when the kids watch TV, and then they're like, oh, what do? I want to watch TV. And that initial reaction is there, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to hear that. And then very quickly it's forgotten, and they're playing Lego, or they're drawing pictures, or like they're running around outside poking each other with sticks. So it's like, let's just keep this happening. If we push this technology further and further and further, all we're going to end up doing is making people that do this. Yeah. And it's like, not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody should do that. It doesn't have to be that.
It also doesn't have to be such a juxtaposition, craft and technology.
No.
Like, there is a world where technology is here to stay.
Yeah.
Like the likes of Instagram has helped accelerated so many craftspeople's careers.
Yeah.
Unfathomable. Yeah. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
No.
There's so many people that we talk to, and just not really in conflict to your previous statement, but just as an adage, that just don't want anything to do with modern tech.
Yeah, okay.
But they're also not able to push themselves out there.
Yeah.
You've got an Instagram. You use your Instagram.
Totally.
And that's enough for you, and that's a great use of it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be a be all and end all.
No.
It's a really difficult balance to get, isn't it? I mean, because where's the nth degree?
Yeah.
Like, you could just be like, oh, well, I don't want any technology. You've got electric motors on your grinders, Sam.
Totally.
You should have a kick wheel. Like,
Yeah.
There is a world where you're like, well, that's too much for me. That's where I'm drawing my line in the sand. Like AI, for example, big thing that a lot of craft people are probably going to have major issues with in the coming, I was going to say 5 years, but probably realistically, in the coming 18 months, we'll have big issues in it. That's where we can all draw our line. It's certainly where we draw our line. Speaking to real people, getting real stories, but it doesn't have to be a complete shutdown on. Like, we have a digital subscription as well as our magazine. Like, they don't have to be one or the other. They can be together.
If it's a tool. And we use it. If it's a crutch, no. Like it can become, it's the lazy option in a lot of ways. And you're saying about the AI, like all this funding that I'm searching for the school and stuff at the minute, the number of people that I've written to, here is my dream, here is my belief, this is why it is important, here's the people I've worked with before, here's some references to all this. Sorry, we can't help, but we do offer a course in how AI can help craftspeople. I'm like, did you even read the application is about learning to work with your hands, and all you're offering me is a course to learn to talk to an AI. It was like, okay, let's shut that door. Let's try the next one. And it's happened so much. and you grow thick-skinned. You keep trying, you keep looking, but
that's a really important skill to have as well. Is just be thick-skinned.
Oh man!
The amount of times we've been told Prince dying.
Yeah.
And then I was on the phone to someone catching up with them for the first time in a long time the other day, and they're like, "You do realise like this might be difficult, but you're growing
totally
a print magazine, which is a dead industry.
Yeah.
In whether anyone says it or not, a recession.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Actually, this is all right.
It's a fine skill.
Yeah. And then I think the same for all craft people. Like, you're doing a thing where the world is pushing, in your case, a 20 quid IKEA knife or a Joseph and Joseph knife set for the price of a look at your shop. You know, and I'm like, that's all right.
Yeah.
Like, what is the metrics you measure success on?
Definitely not money.
Yeah.
Am I getting in the sea? Am I being able to go surfing? Am I happy? Are my kids happy? Is Neve happy? But, like, doing all of this, I am not gonna like. It's not easy.
No.
It's a slog, and I'm really lucky. I have a waiting list for my normal day-to-day knives. People have been amazing. When the twins were coming along, I sent a big email out to everybody. I was like, look, I know you've been waiting a good long time. I just need some time with my family. I have no idea how this is going to work out. It's going to be a shit show for a while. If you want your deposits back, totally fine to pay. Like they pay 50 quid deposit. It just keeps an interest in people. I've had maybe 5 people ask for their deposit back out of a few hundred.
Really?
Which is, and the number of emails back. I'm a twin. My mum's a twin. My dad's a twin. My auntie.
All these stories.
All these stories.
Was just good luck.
That was, and it was like hilarious moments. So like, this is fantastic. Oh, what lucky kids to grow up with your stuff. Maybe again, there's probably a high percentage of local or like national interest within that. So people know mine and Neve's story. They kind of feel like when we had the restaurant, we wanted to build like a tiny little cafe, make nice cakes, do nice coffee. It's going to be a thing for the local community to go and enjoy. And we built it in 31. Me and my friend like stripped and renovated and rebuilt this place 31 days. When Neve had what was Rowan, like 9 months old, and in that time, because of who Neve and I had got strings in various pies, we had every single restaurant reviewer from all the national press phoning up, when can we come and review the restaurant? We're like, it's not a restaurant, it's a cafe. It's just going to sell cups, tea and coffee and cake. Go on. You know you want to do dinners. So by the time we did open up, we were like, maybe we should do a dinner. So it just did a Friday and Saturday night dinner, and then brunch Saturday, Sunday, and then during the week. And within 2 months, I'd say every restaurant critic had come.
That's cool.
Gave it phenomenal reviews.
Wow.
And we were getting people driving from Dublin to come for lunch or for dinner, even crazy. Like, come over, turn up at 5 o'clock, have a wander around the town, come for dinner, leave, drive back to Dublin.
Wow.
We're like, this is crazy. And then Neve would be working her ass off, not seeing Rowan. I'd be minding Rowan. Rowan and I would come in either on a Friday or Saturday evening to the first service of dinner, and he'd sit either on my lap if we were super busy at the big table, or on a high chair. And like, people were invested in our family. They knew the story that we had a young kid. They knew where we'd come from building this place. There's one lady, Catherine Cleary, who is a really wonderful restaurant reviewer. Her opening paragraph commented on the fact that I'd laid the subway tiles out in downward lines rather than across, and like it was something I was really conscious about when I like subway tiles. I wanted to try something different. It was a big open plan kitchen. Me and my mate busted out, like it's a lot of tiles. We were working late at night, and it's the first thing she noticed
as well.
Yeah, and it's just like, you get it. Like, before you even ate the food, you got what we were trying to do. And she actually bought her whole family. I think she bought her grandfather for his 90th birthday to do her restaurant review. Was like, this is bonkers. It's like, who does that?
Because I can imagine a restaurant reviewer would turn one of one. That's how they turned up, and they
just like your whole family is here. And when she came in, we're like, I'm sure that's Gaffer and Cleary. It's like, it turns out, yes, it was. And she's like, thanks, guys. That was a really nice thing for us to do.
That's
we're
awesome.
Like, so I think all of these things, I've lost my train of thought on where I was arriving on that, but it's like investment into all these things it's about us, and it's about sharing that with people and showing, like, maybe it makes one person's life an inspired moment that gives somebody else the chance to grow the next craft person, or encourages them to be a chef, or somebody's kid comes for dinner with them or learns to cook, and it puts them on a different trajectory. For my mental health, if that means it's one person that doesn't go through that dark place that I went to and allows them an avenue to explore something positive instead of self-destruct, great. If me talking about it allows somebody to turn around and open up and go, actually, I've got a big fucking mess in my head at the minute, can somebody please talk to me about this?
Yeah.
Then my job on the world is done. It's like I didn't know who to talk to. I masked so much for so many years from so many people who were really close and special to me. And when I came out of that overdose, I think it really made people be like, oh my God, I never knew like what was going on. You hid it. Or nobody knew how to talk to me about it because it wasn't talked about, whereas now we possibly have a better way of addressing these things, and it's not such a stigma.
Is there an amount of it now, having, you said masked it there and you mentioned it earlier as well, that is this Sam Gleeson? Is this your unapologetic self?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't need to hide behind anything anymore. I definitely still have dark days. I'm able to sit there and go, yeah, it's not easy. This is okay. This is what's happening. Neve knows my life inside out, and has accepted all of what that is, and is able to sit there on some days and go, are you sure you're all right? Because what I'm seeing is do. And I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I'm a little bit frantic about this, or maybe I need to
go for a dip in the sea.
Yeah, like that kind of thing. And having somebody to know watch your back and know that's it, amazing. My friends, like I've got 3 mates who I've known since I was a tiny baby that I'm still best mates with. Having that depth of friendship is amazing. 2 of them are the people that I went to live with in Ghana. And now, like, there's a slightly wider circle than that as well. Like, we all still get to catch up a couple of times a year. If everybody's got kids now, and the next generation is great. Like, it's so nice seeing those things, and like, we have great connections here. I've got connection at different places I've lived and stuff like that. I kind of feel the different eras of my life have been marked by like certain, I get very focused in what I'm doing. So like the furniture making, we had the furniture making business in Dublin, head down, that was my life then. And the friends that would know me from then was like, I'm always zipping around on my bicycle, and our workshop door was always open if people wanted to come in for a cup of tea and a biscuit. That's a bit of my life. Then this is a bit of my life. The dirt park days of my life was another. Like, there's all these different characters that have kind of arrived to this now.
That's great.
And God knows what, like...
You still got lots to come.
That's the thing. I hope, like, my old man, unfortunately, had a brain hemorrhage at 53, and he spent 10 years recovering to a degree from that, and then ended up dying of a heart attack. And that kind of, like, partly stress, partly, who knows, many things that probably equated to it. Bad diet, bad lifestyle, all sorts of stuff. I hope that I'm not going to get to 53 and keel over. Maybe I would like to be doing... I met someone the other day, he's in his 70s, he's still smithing. He's like slowly working out that he's coming to... His body's not working as well as possible, but he still potters away and does what he does. He still loves it. Like if I can be teaching, I don't necessarily have to be working fully hardcore all the time. I don't see why we can't do this until the day that you keel over. Like,
oldest person we've ever had on this podcast was 83 and he was still doing it.
Cool. That's good.
Paul Hammer, still smashing it. He's making miniatures as well. His eyes and his hands are still as sharp as a tack.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal.
And the passion is
still there
after however many years of doing it.
And that's a real good sense that someone's doing exactly what they should be doing.
Yeah.
Not that I like the word should, but doing exactly what they should be doing because they're still passionate about it, right?
Yeah.
Question that was posed to us by a furniture maker, Brian Cush, in Australia. If there's one piece in 100 years that represents you and your work, what is it?
Good question. It probably would be a knife, I think. What I find interesting with the knives is that it's brought so many parts of my life together. It's the cooking, it's the furniture making, it's the collecting of materials, it's a love of process, it's the science, it's the art. Like all of these things are addressed, all of these needs and wants and desires have arrived in this one object. And creating, like, I think my favorite bit of making a knife as well, forging the shape, I really enjoy, like taking a small piece of metal and stretching it in. I try and forge as close as possible to the finished shape.
I was quite surprised by that. So I've done a bit of knife smithing, bladesmithing, not to any level, just for myself and a long time ago. But I was quite surprised looking at your setup, your showcase thing there, how close to the finished shape your knives actually are.
Yeah.
Because it's not the normal. No. Usually there's a lot, the profile's getting ground out at the end because there's a lot of hammer burrs and whatnot. I was quite surprised by that.
Yeah. I like it's about the materials and the waste. Like the less waste there is, the better. Yeah, and I've actually got a bucket upstairs that all the little trimmings that come off I've been lobbing in. And at some point I want to make a massive dirty pile of the canister Damascus and make something out of that. So there's something really, it's like a deeply ingrained desire to do that. And then making up the actual steel to make the knives from. Like we'll have a look in a while at some of the bits, but the cartwheel rims that you can see there, they are from a cart on a farm just over the hill. They're about 150 years old. So they worked the land around here. They have that whole journey of what that was in the first place. They're made in a smith's, that is my friend Layman, that's a spoon maker. His house is where the cartwheel smithery was in Ennis Diamond. So it has a journey of, say, 7 miles from there to there. Over, let's say at the most, it's 200 years of history. Knowing all of what that's done, where it's come from, and now I get it as a rusty chunk of metal, and I can turn it into something that's hopefully going to it could last another 150 years, and someone else is going to tell another bit of the story about what that is amazing. And awesome. With things like wrought iron in particular, when you open it up and you etch it and you see all the grain, and like I have no idea what's in that at the minute.
No, quite. You don't until you etch it, right? Which is a very last minute process.
Exactly. And when you do, you're just like, oh my God, this is so cool. And some of the stuff I do, like the really fancy, crazy pattern stuff, is known steels that are put together in a certain way to create these patterns. My enjoyment really comes from these simple laminations with historical and junk found stuff that you break open and you don't know what it is until the final bits. You piece it all together and suddenly the story is alive, the material, the worth, the next age of heritage of it is the next reveal. It's like, this is cool, this is really good.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, what advice would you give your younger self?
Don't smoke so much weed. Talk to more people. Be a little bit braver. It took me a long while of really pushing myself to and probably because I smoke so much weed. It's like knock down a level, go partying, have fun, don't become a drug addict. Like that's the crux. It's like when partying turns into addiction, knowing when that line is crossed and be brave enough to stand up and say, yeah, I've got a problem now. I need some help sorting this out, or go and sort it out yourself. But in terms of making and creating, I think just keep doing it. Just believe in it. Like
one more day.
Yeah.
Just keep going one more day.
That's all it needs to be. And I think I still have some of my earliest things that I've made and drawn and created, and whether they were with help from my dad or picture, like the kids now, when they're drawing pictures, they're like making little books and stuff like that. And I grew up in a semi-detached red brick 1970s like nondescript house in a little cul-de-sac, and there was a cupboard under the stairs, and I had a typewriter in there and a pile of pens and a stack of paper, and I used to shut myself in there, and I would make little books that I would type away, and then I'd draw drawings on, or I'd do paintings, or I'd make models, and then I had the lathe in my dad's workshop and stuff. Like there was always something going on, and being brave enough just to keep going. Like I think I was probably a bit lonely as a kid because I didn't, like, before even drugs and stuff, I was a very shy child. And if I could go back beyond even the carnage years of going to really little Sam and say, it's all right, just like go and say hi to people. People are nice. Don't be so afraid to step out of the box. And it's like, took a long while to get that. But luckily, the people that were around me, they obviously did a good job because they're still here now. Well, hopefully I did a good job, that I was nice, at least. I think I was a very pleasant kid. I was very polite, but I was just, I didn't know how to like get out there and get stuck in. Went fishing lots, did a lot of things on my own and was happy on my own. I still am, like I work out here on my own, like kind of, I don't mind being on my own. I like the space. I'm happy with my thoughts these days. It's all right, but
lots to think about.
Yeah, it's good.
Things.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it feels like you've got a lot of good things on the horizon.
Yeah.
When you come back in a few years when the school's in.
Yeah, do come and do some classes and
that'd be cool.
Come and have a play. It'll be really good.
Where does everyone find out about your stuff? We'll wrap this up, but where does everyone find out about everything that's going on, from your actual knife making to your... Of course, they will all have bought all of our editions of We Are Makers, so they'll know where to find you.
We'll be in issue 15.
In the odd chance that they have not already bought all of the We Are Makers editions, where would they find out about you?
My website is thisiswhatido.ie. My Instagram is thisiswhatwedo with a double O. We are going to set up a different website probably for the Ocean Plastics knife and probably for the school. Working project title of the school at the minute is Under One Roof, because we are all under one roof. And the knife project, I am not 100% sure yet. We have a few working ideas. It will probably all come through my original website, and then we'll feed out from there. And we will definitely
Feels like the reconstituted plastic needs to be This Is What We Did.
Yeah, that's a good one.
This is what we did.
Yeah, and that came from when I had the furniture making business. This Is What We Do was mine and my friend's business. So when I just did the knives on my own, that's why This Is What I Do came along. And we have thought about all the connotations of where it could go. But yeah, it's organic. It's like, I am impatient. If I could build this years ago and have it done and dusted, part of the joy, I guess, of the twins arriving, of having to be able to do this through grant funding and
slow
not
down
just
and think about it.
exactly. And it's probably made it an awful lot better because it
sucks in the moment, though. Like it's fine to recognise it absolutely sucks in the moment, because I'm arguably one of the most impatient people in the world. Arguably one of the most impatient people in the world. Like, if the speed limit in the UK was 200 miles an hour, I'd buy a faster car. Like, I just need to be doing things faster. But I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just, as long as it doesn't torment you.
We all want things to go faster. You build your business faster.
It's just ambition, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. There's nothing really.
I think this is one of the good things for me with Neve is always, she's like, look at each day and like, it's great to have all these ideas. It's great to have all these beliefs, but make sure you sit at the end of each day and the day is just not disappearing. Make sure you've done something good with the day, whether that's your engagement with the kids or certain thing you needed to achieve for X, Y, and Z to be happening over here, but make sure that day counts. And that's probably the one to go back to Tiny Sam is like, I think Tiny Sam probably did have that grasp, but just got lost somewhere. And I'm not quite sure where it went.
But it went somewhere.
It went somewhere, and it took me a while to get it back. I was still getting shit done, still doing stuff, still achieving, but my grip on the day-to-day reality was not there. There was still like the bursts of believing and arriving in different places, but somehow day-to-day Sam was a ghost. And now day-to-day Sam is back.
Yeah. That's a good way to wrap it up. Day-to-day Sam is back.
There we go.
Mate, thank you so much. It's been wicked.
Thank you.
It's been awesome. Thanks for carving out time in a very busy schedule.
Thanks for having the chats. Thanks for coming.
Awesome, man.
It's a joy to meet you.
Thank you. I know.
Finally. In person.